And let me open up my camera. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is John Meredith. I'm one of the trainers here at Sumo Logic and wanted to welcome you to this workshop. So in this workshop, we're going to talk about observability, specifically application observability, but you're going to find that Sumo Logic really focuses on two major areas: observability across your environment, as well as security. And so those are our two major areas. And again, feel free to ask any questions as we're going through this. This is going to be a hands-on workshop, so you get a chance to play and poke and prod around and have yourself a good time. My only ask of you is if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know and feel free to ask your questions. The thing I've learned, and I've been teaching since about 1982. So that's my first gig as an instructor. I was a Navy instructor way back when as a first-class petty officer. So, but the thing is that I've learned that if you have a question, chances are somebody in the room has a similar question. So by you asking your question, you help them ask their question. So please ask your questions. Help us help you. As far as my background, as I said, I've been with Sumo Logic a little over 2.5 years. I've been teaching for a while. I've also been various roles as an IT manager, a DBA, a programmer, a network admin. But I found that if you love what you do, it's really not work. And so I love teaching. So that's what I do. That's what got me here. So anyway, enough about me. I'm going to stop the video streaming just to save a little bandwidth here. And let's get this show on the road. So our game plan here, we're going to talk a little bit about introduction to Sumo Logic. And then we'll focus a little bit about observability with Sumo Logic. And we're going to go through some tracing using the Sumo Logic coffee brand. Sumo Logic coffee, a great cup of coffee. You'll find we patterned ourselves after Starbucks, but of course, Starbucks is copyrighted, so we can't use Starbucks. So we created our own Sumo Logic coffee, similar concept. We're going to talk about real user monitoring, or RUM. So this class will have a discussion about RUM, real user monitoring, service map traces, span analytics, and then we'll wrap it up and tell you where you can continue your training into the things if you are so inclined. So microservices, right? Companies have a lot of microservices. And you may have microservices, you may not. You may be on the cloud, you may not. But if you are on the cloud, you've probably got multiple environments, right? You got maybe something in the US East 1, US West 1, whatever. Maybe some in other regions, if you're on AWS or Azure or whatever. And then, of course, these applications that you have a bunch of different microservices. There might be a microservice to log you in, a microservice to place the order, a microservice to pay the bill, a microservice to log out, microservices to do a whole host of things. And we can use Sumo Logic to see across those microservices and to see what's going on with them. So the more complicated your environment is with microservices and environments and everything else, the more challenge it is to see across and see what's happening. Whether you're on the cloud or maybe you're even on-prem and you've got some sort of clustering and stuff going, right? It's hard to see through that. The good news is with Sumo Logic, you'll find that we can see through it very, very well. And we can help you troubleshoot and get a sense for what's happening. So it's funny in my mind, and having seen technology grow since I got my computer science degree back in '82, I find it interesting that things become more and more complex, more and more sophisticated, while trying to look simpler. So, but the point is that, and again, we got this quote here, and I absolutely love this quote. We've replaced our monolithic environment that we had, our 3-layer monolithic application with microservices. And so that every outage can be more like a murder mystery. Again, those of you familiar with the game Clue, right? Professor Plum shot Miss Scarlet in the conservatorium with the gun or a revolver or whatever. The point is that you've got a whole host of different services connected to different things and different environments and all that stuff. And so it literally acts kind of like a murder mystery when you have an outage and you have a problem. You got to figure out where that outage is, what caused that outage. And so, like I said, you're going to find here at Sumo Logic, we make it fairly easy to do that. So we talk about application performance monitoring in Sumo Logic. You'll find it has 3 tiers. Now, I realize I'm missing a piece right here, but don't worry, as I animate through the slide, we'll get there. Most people think in terms of Sumo Logic as a log and metrics company. We ingest lots and lots of logs, we ingest lots and lots of metrics so that you can see basically what's going on. But we've added some things to Sumo Logic. So again, our metrics look for only known failure conditions, things are out of bounds, things are running too hot, running too cold, whatever. My logs typically, again, tell me why things are happening. And again, these become the pillars of our observability solution, but there's another component here. And that other component is tracing. So in Sumo Logic, we now have the ability to do transactional tracing, and you'll see that within the Coffee Logic app, the Sumo Coffee Logic app. You place an order, there's actions that the Bartista takes to process and give you that order. And we can see where those actions start to break down or where there's issues, using your logs, using your metrics, and of course, using some of the tools in Sumo Logic. So this is some of the things that you're going to experience today. So again, this tracing gives us the ability to see the transaction and to see where things fail. Again, we think in terms of transaction tracing, right? A user makes a request. It may go to one environment, which may go to a microservice on that environment, which may then forward it to a different environment, a different microservice, and so forth and so on. Lots of different ways a user request can go through. And so when a particular transaction fails, we want to know exactly the path that happened, and we're able to see that. So we'll see that. So we use transaction traces to basically, again, look at our apps and see through our apps, monitor those apps, locate the various failures that occurred in those applications, as well as we can also see an improved performance. And of course, these days with cloud-based systems and all that fun stuff, you may automatically span up and spin up additional environments as you need to. So this problem becomes more and more complex as we go through using technology. So we're going to talk a little bit about the tracing in the Sumo Logic Coffee app here, a little background here. Good news is I won't be lecturing much longer. We'll get a chance to go in and do some hands-on stuff and see what's going on. As I mentioned, right now we're looking at the application layer. We have the application component layer. We have the platform technology layer. We have the infrastructure layer. We at Sumo Logic can see across all of these. But our focus for today's workshop is the application layer. And for the application in question, we're going to use the Sumo Logic Coffee app. Again, provides a great cup of coffee. We'll talk about the steps that we go through with regards to this coffee process. But Sumo Logic's observability solution lets us see our infrastructure, lets us see our platform technology and that sort of thing. We can see our Kubernetes observability. We can see our AWS or Azure environments and things like that. So Sumo Logic Coffee, I've talked about it before. Again, it's an international coffee chain. I'm sure you probably haven't seen it. Looks a lot like Starbucks, but again, it's not copyrighted. So delivering a fast cup of hot coffee is our priority, right? We now serve pastries and all that fun stuff. So a lot of different things that you can order, and there are obviously transactions for those things. In fact, if you go to Sumo Logic Coffee and you see the Bartista back there doing his or her things, this is the process that kind of happens, right? A customer places an order, the order posts to the Bartista. The Bartista fires up the coffee machine. The machine checks the bean levels. If it has beans, it grinds those beans for whatever coffee type the customer wants. And then the machine also checks the water levels. If the machine has water, the machine adds water, pours out a cup of coffee. The coffee is now ready for the customer. The customer pays for this order. And then, of course, the credit card is approved, and then the customer picks up those orders. So each one of these is actually a microservice, if you think about it. And so anywhere in here, things may fail. I also submit to you for consideration that when we try to improve this process, we realize that if a customer can't pay for their coffee, we've got to waste the coffee. So maybe, just maybe, we want to move the credit card process after the customer places the order. while the barista is making it. That way we know we won't waste coffee. But again, business is business, and you'll do what you think you need to do, including, if necessary, wasting a cup of coffee. So we've got a series of microservices here. Now, from the front end, I'm the customer. I go to the Sumo Logic coffee person at the cash register. I order some coffee. Maybe I want to order some pastries as well. You'll find I tend to like pastries. Okay. So the barista, like I said, turns on the machine. But on the back end processing, maybe I watch it, maybe I don't. I can see that we've got this machine service where we're going to grind the beans. We're going to dispense the water. We also have some sort of a payment service where we're going to go out and calculate what they owe, tax and all that fun stuff. And then, of course, we'll go out to some sort of a PCI type environment, credit card information or whatever, and get approval for that transaction. So these are some of the things that happen on the back end. And again, any of these systems could fail. And if they fail, well, we've got to understand why they failed and be able to resolve that. So that's the tracing. And like I said, I'm talking a little bit about it right now. There's another component in Sumo Logic application monitoring that we've recently added. And I say recently, in the last year, we added something called real user monitoring, which we refer to as RUM, R-U-M. And real user monitoring allows you and I to see things from the user's browser's perspective. So the question is, when I go to a web page, how long does it take for that web page to render? It's obviously, hopefully it's in milliseconds, maybe in microseconds, maybe in seconds, but hopefully it happens fairly quick. Otherwise, my user is going to be upset. What's taking so long? Why is it taking so long to render, and things like that? You will find that with our RUM solution, our real user monitoring solution, we can see how things are going from the end user's perspective. We can understand that user experience. Now, again, RUM is also part of this transaction, right? If we're ordering our pastries and our coffee through a website or through a kiosk, that is basically a web-based system, and we want to know if we're having problems. So real user monitoring also allows us to support and take care of that application observability. Okay. Again, this RUM performance lets us see what the user's experiencing from their web application performance. We can visualize this, and I'll show you in just a little bit how it looks and what's going on, so we can get an idea of what our optimal performance is, and obviously take steps to deal with that. And we can also see insights. Maybe things are working fine, but again, we typically want to get a baseline for what's normal. And then, of course, as business grows, we get more customers, maybe then things start to slow down. So gathering insights as to what's happening, again, maybe what kind of browsers are people trying to access our environment with, and things like that. So really some good stuff here. All right, so let's do a little walkthrough. And so on this walkthrough, I'm going to show you RUM. And like I said, in a little bit, I'm going to have you go ahead and log in. So let me go out here. And to get into our service environment, Sumo environment, I'm going to type in service.sumologic.com. This is our training environment. So here I am in our training environment, and I'm going to log in. Now, later on, I'm going to give you this URL and credentials for you to log in as well. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And in here, again, how many of you have played with Sumo Logic as far as logs and metrics? If you would, just raise your hand. So in the participants window, raise your hand if you've been playing with our logs and metrics. And it looks like quite a few of you, and that's great. By the way, I see I've got some new folks here that's joined. Let me enable your microphone, so if you get questions, you can certainly ask them. We enjoy good questions, so feel free to ask your questions here. Let me enable microphones. Like I said, got a lot of folks here, got quite an audience. Glad you all are able to make it. And I got one more. There we go. Everybody should be able to talk now. All right. So you're probably familiar with, under new, creating log searches and creating metrics. But about a year ago, we came out with all these other things. So these are the things, some of the things that we're going to talk about over this next 40 minutes. And so what I want to do is talk about RUM. So if I click the Explore option here, or I clicked it on this icon right there, it brings up my Explorer. Now with my Explorer, I can go over here and say Explore by. I can explore by Kubernetes. I can explore your AWS environment to see all your microservices and see what's going on there. I can look at various host and process views. I can look at service application views. I can look at all kinds of things. But most importantly here, I can look and do some real user monitoring. That's what I want to focus on right now. So I can go in here to real user monitoring. And if I go up here, I can see my application health across my services. I can see a bunch of different dashboards. So let me grab this one dashboard here, RUM 13 RUM, performance application. And so here I can see my page load time. How long over the last 3 hours is my page load time taking? Okay. And these are in milliseconds, so about 4 seconds, right? Average page time, and that's decreasing. And again, I can see there's some spikes up here. I can see the latest request. How many requests am I getting? Obviously, the more requests I get, the harder I'm working my system. Down here, I can see which browsers am I using? Firefox, Chrome, what sort of thing? What operating systems am I using? Where are my customers? That also may play a significant role in my performance, right? I might have some customers maybe outside the United States where I don't have an environment stood up. Let me go ahead and lower those hands, because I know some of you, I forgot to lower your hands earlier when I asked you about how many of you play with Sumo Logic. If you do have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type it in the chat box. Now down here, I can see the website performance. So as I go through a page, I can see down here, how long it took to resolve my DNS. And I can go ahead and see, various aspects of my page load, my processing time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so what happens here across my timeline, and again, your timeline is controlled in this query up here, 3 hours. I'm looking at 3 hours worth of data. And so I can see across here that I've got some spikes. Something's taken long to load. And I can use these other dashboards as I need to help me troubleshoot this. My page load time, again, a different type of interface. Again, some information here about browsers and things like that. I can see how long it's taking to paint my pages. And so when we investigate issues, I can get a sense of it. I can also see my requests coming in, how many requests I'm getting per second. So, again, I can get a sense for what kind of load I'm under. And so this is all built in out of the box. And so you and I and others, we can go into these dashboards and we can look at things. And that's what we're going to do here in just a few minutes. We're actually going to do a little hands-on exercise to see why those pages are taking so long to load. By the way, not only can I see in my Coffee Bar app, the app itself, but I can break it down by front end or back end or whatever. And so I can see in here, looking at the various specific services, microservices that are running. Again, I can also look at my front end. And again, I can see various dashboards that I might have here. For example, I have a dashboard here, top end application services, that tell me how long it's taking for my page to load based on browser type, based on operating system. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, if you've got a web presence, this information is pretty powerful. You can see what's going on with regards to your customer's performance. So rather than getting that innocuous little email that says, your pages are taking a long time to load, and they're not very specific. They don't say what pages, they don't tell you where they're from. They don't, here you can go in here and see it from their perspective. So again, it'll save you lots and lots of time. Now, what I want to do, and again, I've shown you some of the dashboards, but what I want to do is I really want you to come in here and I want to troubleshoot, I want to play. So I want you to log in. So what you're going to do is you're going to fire up Google Chrome or Firefox. So launch your Google Chrome browser or your Firefox browser. Go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. And by the way, I'll put this in the chat box so that you guys can all see it. Okay. And so you're going to go to service.sumologic.com. And if you don't mind here, I'm going to log out just so I'm in the same boat that you're in. So we'll do this together. Service.sumologic.com. Here we are. Okay, great. Now, what we want you to do is we want you to log in as training plus analyst with the 3-digit number at sumologic.com. Now, that 3-digit number can be anywhere from 001 to 999. Don't care. But I would like you to type it in the chat box. So pick a 3-digit number. I'm sure for some of you, it's always been a childhood fantasy to be 007. Now, today, you can be 007, James Bond. So pick whatever 3-digit number that you want. Just for fun, I am going to pick 985. So again, just let you know. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to log in as training plus analyst, and I want you to log in as training plus analyst with that number. Now, you might ask, why did I pick 985? Well, as I mentioned to you before, I spent about 20 years of my life in the United States Navy. And in the Navy, my last destroyer I was on was the USS Cushing, hull number 985. So that's why I grabbed 985. The password here, by the way, is security 22 exclamation mark. And if I click on the little button here, there it is. By the way, you can use this training environment today. You can use it tomorrow. You can use it next week. You can log in with these training analyst accounts. The only stipulation is the password changes every month. And so when it changes, and it changes on the first Monday of every month, just so you know. So if you want to be able to access the environment next month, and you don't know what the password is, and you probably don't, you can send me an email and I will tell you what the password is. I don't know what it is right now. I won't know it until we change it. But there's my contact information. So if you want to come in here and play and do other courses and do other things, you can certainly do that. So now, having logged in, I'm going to click sign in, and here we go. Now we've got a series of little exercises here that we want you to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the chat box, I'm going to upload this file. Now, some of you, most of you will probably be able to grab it from the chat box. But some of you, because your company may restrict your ability to grab files and attachments through Zoom, may not. If you cannot download this document, I just now posted it up. If you cannot download it, if you would send me in the chat box your email address, I will send it to you via email, if that's okay. It's a PDF document. By the way, that PDF document is open right here. I've already got it open. And again, this is the steps and the labs that we're going to go through. So again, here's how you log into Sumo Logic. Then we're going to walk through this real-time user monitoring solution. And then we're going to do some traces and spans and all that good stuff. So that's basically what that document has. So is everybody able to grab that document okay? And again, you can keep that document, you can use it, you can play with it next week, show your friends, whatever you want to do. Again, if you can't grab and download that document, feel free to reach out to me in the chat box privately, send it to me directly, and tell me what your email address is, and I will gladly email it to you. Okay. So let's get into this. So here we are in the document, lab scenario, right? Sumo Logic coffee, customer offers coffee, all that fun stuff. We can see the span ID, trace ID. I'll talk about those a little later. But in lab one here, they want us to go ahead and click on explore. And then in the left navigation bar, they want me to select real user monitoring. So let me turn the page here first. There we go. And let me go back to my Sumo Logic environment. Let's click on explore by. Let me move this, if you don't mind, over to the left. And over here where it says explore by, they want me to choose real user monitoring. And again, here you and I should see the Coffee Bar app, the front end, and then the various microservices. All right, back to my directions. Again, showing you the structure. Also, in here, we have various dashboards that we can see depending on where we are. So again, if I'm down here, I have a whole bunch of other dashboards that I can see. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to get a sense for what is happening, right? How long things are taking to load and all that fun stuff. So I believe it wants me to go to the performance analytics dashboard from my application. So we want to go to performance analytics application here. And I can see my load time, and I see it's gone up. It's now about 5 seconds. This is in milliseconds. This is my average load time. And so this is a problem, right? We got an issue. But if I scroll down here, I can see my website performance, and I can see that over this 3-hour period, I've had a couple of spikes, and things are taking a long time to load. Specifically, what's taking a long time to load? Well, my time for my page load end, from the time it starts to the time it ends, that's taking a long time. So there's a problem with my page loading. Now, why is my page taking so long to load? I can scroll down a little farther and I see that there's some paint trimmings here. And so what happens is we are Sumo Logic Coffee. We are showing them images of pastries and coffee and things, right? Best way to sell something is probably provide a picture of it. Well, those pictures, depending on how I do the pictures, can take longer to load, right? Depending what kind of format I use. And so here I'm noticing that when I'm seeing page load times take a long time, my painting of my images are taking a long time as well. And that's ultimately perhaps what's causing my problem. So now I can go back to my developers and say, hey, developers, what can we do to reduce that? Can we use a different format, a different page type, size, or whatever? And so that is what we're trying to point out here. So we're looking at this information. We can see the thing. The debrief with the instructor is where I'm basically telling you what the issue is. Now, I can also look at my application health across my services. So if I go here and I click application health across my services, this is a different dashboard. And here in my different dashboard here, I can see where my KPIs here for my latency. And these are color coded. So I can sit and see where my latency is. I can also see my errors, my 401s, my 502s, whatever kind of errors I get. I can also see my various application details from my logs. And I can also see my transactions, my spans, and my other information here. Now we're going to talk about these spans in just a little bit. But these spans have a red outline, which means that they're taking longer than average. So these are indicators of things that we might want to look into. So I hope you're getting the idea. This is pretty powerful. This is a pretty cool tool to see how your websites and stuff are performing. Back to my directions here real quick. Let's go ahead and advance on to the next page. So again, we went into application health services. We looked, we saw, again, the information. We're seeing the various spikes. Okay. By the way, one other thing, if I go in here to these spikes and I pick on a spike and I click on it, click on it one more time. There we go. Opens up the side panel on the left. So here, when I click on that spike, I can see where I am, what its value is through this tooltip. And if I want to here, I can go ahead and link to other dashboards and click on those other dashboards. And that's my summary information. But I can also see my entities. And so here I can see a visualization of my latency. I can get an idea of my requests per seconds. I can get the idea of how many errors I'm getting. And we can also click open in, and I can open this up into other aspects of Sumo Logic. So I believe it wants us to open this up in traces. So I can click open in. traces. And now what's going to do is it's going to show me, again, it's trying to give me some help here, but I don't need it. It's showing me that here I'm running the application, the Coffee Bar app, and the service, the Coffee Bar. And I can see here my various traces where somebody has clicked in here. I can see how long these traces are taking, the number of steps, and the overall status, and also the number of errors. Okay. So for example, here, I noticed that this one down here is taking a long time. I can click on this and this opens up my trace. So here in my trace, you and I can see how much time is spent on the coffee machine. Remember we talked about grinding those beans up and all that fun stuff, getting water. Talk about the user here at the coffee bar doing their thing, the coffee bar front end, the transactions. We can see it broken down. So these different colors are my different microservices of my different events. And where I've got an error, I have these red lines. Now I could filter and say, only show me the red line type stuff by throwing the switch up here. And then everything else kind of gets ghosted out. And so typically what happens is I can go in here where the order operation is placed, where this red line is placed. I can click on that. And again, I see all kinds of information about this information. Now there's a span ID and there's a trace ID. The span ID is this individual span right here. The trace ID is the entire trace, all the spans that make this trace up. I can see how long it took. I can see the parent span it came from. I can see that we got a status code of 500 back, but I don't know what caused the 500. By the way, I can also look at the metadata here that we're collecting, as well as the entities if I want to see that information here. But what I really want to do is I want to open up this span ID and I want to go to my logs, because my logs typically tell me why things are occurring. So when I open up my logs here, I got all this help that I'm going to turn off. I can see that this is my latest message. We sent a request to the cache desk. Okay. And then sent a request to the coffee. And basically what happens here is that the transaction was denied. So we can see what's going on here and we can understand why things are taking so long. So we're having an issue with denied credit cards or denied payment or something along those lines. Again, through your various applications, through whatever your transactions are. I don't care if we're talking about transactions to hire new employees, we're talking about transactions in a manufacturing environment, whatever, we can see across those environments to see what's happening. And that's basically what they want me to show you here with regards to this tracing and those spans. Any questions about lab 1? Any questions about lab 1? Well, let's talk about lab 2. In lab 2, they want me to start with a service map. Well, what's a service map? By the way, you notice you got these tabs open. Of course, you can close them one at a time, which is all fine, well, and good. But as many of you know, if you click on these 3 vertical dots, you'll have options to close all the tabs. Make it a little easier, okay? And by the way, this over here is my navigation panel. I'm going to go ahead and close that up as well. Now here, they want me to go ahead and click on service map. When you've got transactional systems in here, you've got service maps, and the service maps show me, show you, show us what is happening through the various transactions and microservices. So in here, I've got a couple of different applications. I got a default application and I got the Coffee Bar app. I only want to see the Coffee Bar app. So I'm going to select Coffee Bar app, and that gets rid of everything but the Coffee Bar app. Now here I've got the Coffee Bar. And you'll notice it's in red. And the little legend down here says red is abnormal. Okay, great. Green is normal. Great. And I can see what's connected to what. So in my Coffee Bar, I can connect to the cache desk and I can see what's going on there. I can go out to these cloud systems for my transaction data and all that fun stuff. Over here, as I said, here's my coffee machine. My coffee machine goes to the machine service. My machine service goes to the coffee service, as well as the water service, and I can see what's going on. Now, if I want to investigate any of these, per my lab guide here, I can click on one of the circles and I can start investigating to see what's happening. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to take this coffee service one right here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Now, when you click on it, again, that side panel opens up. And here I can see my latency. I can see my results per second. Again, my number of errors. Great. I can open up this in, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, let's go here. I can open this up if I want to into my traces. So when I click on traces, it's going to take me into my transaction traces for this. And I can see that I've got some errors here, like 5, I've got 13, 12, so forth and so on. These are my various transactions. This is when you ordered coffee, I ordered coffee, my wife ordered tea, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can see how long these things are taking. So I can get a sense for what's taking so long. Now, again, when you're delivering coffee and stuff like that, in milliseconds, that's not terribly long. So I get it. But I'm going to grab this one that has 13 errors, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And when I click on it, again, it shows me this diagram. So 70% of this transaction was done at the coffee bar front end. We've got a Lambda function here for checking my suite functions. That's basically checking my pastries. There's a pastry order in here somewhere. Then I've got my coffee bar, which took a little bit of my percentage. And then I've got the other services, which count for 7%. Now, as I mentioned before, I've got these red lines. I want you to troubleshoot this. I want to go to the lowest red line that exists, and I want to see what's going on. That will be my indicator of where the problem is. So again, I got a red line here. Lower than that, I got a red line here and here, here and here, here and here, here and here. This is my lowest red line. Actually, I want this one right here, machine service. So if I click on this, again, another side panel comes up. I can see information about this. It gave us a status code of 502. What the heck is a status code of 502? How long did it take? Where did it come from? Again, here's all my various metadata fields that we are collecting, that we're grabbing from the logs and the log data. Again, here's some of my entity information here as far as performance. And I can open this up in other applications, other dashboards, other things. But in my case, I want to go back to the summary tab, and I want to open up this particular span. Again, I remind you that this is a particular span. These are spans, and then the whole thing is a trace. So I'm going to click on span ID. That's going to open up my logs, and it's going to show me what happened. Now, again, my latest message is the one on top. So let me go to the previous message here first. We got a new order, right? Somebody wants cappuccino, right? Great. And it tells us how much water we need, how many grains we need, and so forth and so on. Then the next step in the process, according to my logs, I see, whoops, there's no grains. I can't make a cappuccino for you. That's why we got the error. So somebody needs to fill up the grains for the cappuccino machine. There we go. So we can see what's going on. And again, whether we're talking about making coffee, or we're talking about new employee hires, or we're talking about process going on my manufacturing floor, this information is very valuable. So we can fix those issues and resolve those issues. And so that is lab number 2, where we started with a particular circle in there, a particular entity, and we went into the traces. We found a trace that had a high number of errors, and we opened it up, and we see that we've got an issue with our ability to grind the beans. We opened up the span ID, and we have an issue with grinding the beans. Now, just so we're clear, I can go back to my service map. I can go back to my cache desk. I can click on this cache desk if I want to. Again, I can open this up in traces again. So here are my traces with regards to my cache desk. Again, I find this one with number 13 in here. I can click on that, and let me close this up out of the way. And if I find my cache desk here, and I go to my lowest value here, I should be able to see that maybe there was an issue with the transaction. So again, I can go in here in my order, and I can open my span ID, and I can look at my logs. And I would in fact notice that the problem was that there was a credit card purchase that wasn't accepted. So you can use these tools to see where things are breaking down with regards to your transactions. And that, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is application observability. Pretty powerful stuff. Okay. Let's skip through some slides here real quick. Actually, let me do one other thing that I want to show you here. So bear with me. Another thing that you and I can do, let me close up all these tabs, is we can also do and look at our set of our traces. We can look at our spans. So here we have span analytics. And again, if I want to here, I can focus on some span analytic information that I want, right? So maybe I want to focus on a specific service. My service equals my coffee service. And so then I can run this. And I can see my data here over the last 15 minutes. I can see my various transactions here. And then if I want to, I can visualize this. Maybe I want to visualize this by my duration, and maybe I want to see my percentage, and I want to see those that are at 95%. And maybe I want to group them by time. So basically, without having to write any fancy queries, I can select the various drop downs that I want to. And now I can get a visualization here of what's happening. That's a single data point. Let me open this up a little bit so I get more data points. Hopefully I get some lines here. And we get a better, well, okay, I got one single data point. So not really a great example here. Let me turn that off for a moment. And let me change this to duration. Let me get an average. Still a single data point. Sorry, folks, we're not collecting a lot of data here, but normally I would see some sort of a graph, chart, whatever. And again, tells me how we're doing performance-wise. So this is another tool that we have in our arsenal, that you have in your Sumo logic arsenal, that you can in fact use. So let me go back to my slides. And so what have we seen? We've seen the real user monitoring. Again, we can see the RUM dashboards to understand how the users experienced our web application, how long things are taking to load and things like that. We can see tracing to be able to drill down to our infrastructure level to find out the potential causes, potential issues, so that we can resolve them quicker. And then, of course, our logs have always told us why things are going wrong, what the issue is, that sort of thing. So these tracing and real user monitoring take us quickly into the logs so we can focus on where that problem is and read the information about those specific instances in the logs. And so we've also talked here about the service maps and how you can see how things are broken down. And again, if you're abnormally high or low or whatever, you'll see red circles there, and you can troubleshoot that. And we did this. We actually did this in lab number 2. So, and then traces and spans. Now, we try to wrap this up so that we can sit there and, again, we saw spans here too. That's what I was trying to show you, but I don't have a lot of data here to do that. So in our exercises, we discovered some issues. We did these exercises and found out that, gee, we're out of beans, or gee, we're out of whatever. And so you and I can troubleshoot this. You can, I can, we can use these tools, like I said, to understand the user's experience, to be able to trace, to see what's happening. And our span analytics also gives us a very easy, quick way of creating a query visualization so we can see without having to do a complicated query. So hopefully you agree with me that tracing is important. It makes for easier troubleshooting, particularly across the complex environments that you have in today's world. Provides us nice detailed insights. Ultimately, will take us to the logs of the offending component within our application so we can see exactly what's happening. And again, helpful in identifying the microservice that's providing these issues and problems so that we can fix that microservice. If you want to continue your education and journey here at Sumo Logic, we have a bunch of certification paths. We really have two basic paths, security and observability. And so we have, if you go out to our customer-facing site, sumologic.com/learn/training, you'll see that we've got classes offered in observability fundamentals, where you go through these various tools in more detail. There's also a certification exam in that area. Then we also have an observability administration class where we show you how to set up this stuff for observability, how you turn this stuff on, how you set up your collectors, how you enable the RUM capabilities and stuff in the tool. So that's our two certification classes with regards to observability. So here they are. Also, if you want, you can go to our documentation. In fact, let me just take you out there real quick. To get to our documentation, it's help.sumologic.com. Help.sumologic.com. Or also, if you go into your navigation panel, as some of you may know, and if you click on help, you can click on documentation. That will take you to the same place. In this area, if I scroll down to the various chapters, I will see here is our observability solution. Everything you want to know about what we can do with regards to observability is in here. It's in our product documentation. How to set it up, how to set up your collection, how to diagnose, how to, operator, what's the root cause explorer. And we didn't talk about that, but that's another tool that we have in our arsenal to help us troubleshoot and see what's going on across our AWS environments or our Azure environments. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Otherwise, what questions have you, ladies and gentlemen? Any questions?
Just a quick question. In the trace view, when I toggle the filter for service, right? What does the root, filtering a service for root span as opposed to for any span means?
Okay. So let me go into where you're at. Actually, okay. This is going to be great, but I'll go in here and see if this tries. So are you talking about in traces or are you talking about spans?
In traces, when I just do new trace and then filter it by service, it gives me an option to filter that service with or any span.
Because right now, when I look here, I'm looking and saying my payment service, my coffee bar service, all the various services I might have. And so you can filter it if you want to by a specific service or by a specific operation or by a particular status code. Maybe you want to capture all the 403s or 304s or whatever. So you can filter it by those things. Does that answer your question, sir?
No, means if you just click on service, let's say right now where you're at.
On service, yeah.
Equals to let's say coffee bar.
Yep.
Or coffee service, yeah. And then there is an option. So if you just cherry pick one service, let's say coffee bar or coffee, yeah.
Okay.
Then it gives me an option for any span or for root span. So
Gotcha. What we're looking for is any span. Remember, we've got just bear with me a second. We've got, like I said, the root span up here, and then we've got these spans down there. We're looking for whether the error is in the root span or the error is in any span. So that's what that switch is doing. It's saying, do you want to see just the root spans or do you want to see all the spans?
Gotcha.
That's what that switch is doing.
Okay, got it. Okay.
As far as the service goes, you're looking for only the root span of this, and it's in any span. So you'll find that we have services that could be calling other services. So probably you want to use any span there, not just root span.
Got it.
That answer your question, sir?
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you for asking. It's a good question. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
One more question is to enable RUM in Sumo Logic. Is there any code refactoring required? Like,
Good question. And the answer to that question is yes. There's a little bit of scripting that you need to add to your web pages. It's like it's a small little script that you need to add in there so that we can collect the RUM data for that when it's rendered on the customer's machines. So there is some client-side scripting that gets done. Does that answer your question, sir?
yes. And I think like I'll take one more stab at it. Like my other question, when I was like playing around with like traces, so there are like tracing dashboards which are ready-made, like which are available, right? So I can just leverage them. But when I just land up leveraging any of those templates and then map it to my source categories, sometimes some of the data is not getting populated. So so this may be like off the topic, or like I might be digressing.
I mean, obviously it's on topic, but it's more of a complex answer. So the short of it is that you've got to enable tracing to be able to see those spans and that span information. So there is some things that you've got to do to make it happen. We've recently added a new collector, open telemetry collector, to make getting that span data and stuff a lot easier. But you've got to enable it, and it's a bit of a complicated process. And like I said, in the observability administration class, we go into that complicated process.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Good to know information.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Amit. Thanks. Any other questions, folks?
For the spans, I think we were saying only single data point. Is that because we did not enable the group by? Can you go to the spans, please?
When you're doing the span analytics,
yeah,
you can do a group by, yes.
Yeah. So can we go there, and then sure. I think we see the data. We missed the I'm just suspecting.
So let me grab a service here. Service equals. Let me grab my SQL mobile banking here. I'm taking a stab at this. I don't know if I've got a whole lot of data here or not. No, I don't. Okay, so let me grab something I think I know I've got data for. My problem is that I'm not seeing a lot of data here. And so
I was searching for the coffee service.
Yep. And so here, maybe I want to do it by duration, again, percent, 95%. And then this group by says, how do I want to organize these things? And again, I can group it by time. I can group it by status code. Let me try a status code here. And so now when I run this, it's going to create for me a visualization where I can see my 200s, my 304s, whatever, and creates me a very quick visualization of what's happening.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
But that group by says, how do I want to aggregate and group these things? Now, I did this without having to write a query, which is really nice. So does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, yes. Thanks.
Thank you for asking. And again, I apologize. I didn't really do this span example earlier justice. Okay. So I appreciate you asking the question and having me come through here again. By the way, I can see this as a line chart if I want to. I can change it to a honeycomb chart. Again, I can conditionally format the values in here to make them red, yellow, green, all kinds of easy things to make it more meaningful for you and your team. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
I had a question about the getting the trace side connection between the traces via trace ID or span ID into logs. I realize there's almost no time left, but if you can sort of provide a high level overview of how that's
Yeah, the short answer is that that's something you probably want to take in the admin class, the observability admin class, because that's where we set it up. But what happens is when we define, you've got your log data, and we're going to take that log data and we are going to enable tracing on it. And when we generate that, that's going to generate your span IDs and your trace IDs automatically in the system. So we're not taking trace IDs and span IDs out of your logs. We're generating those. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Good questions, good stuff.
So I have just a quick question. Like I often have issues with the in my current application, we have issues with the page load. So can we set like a page load like chart or anything like for each page navigation that we are going through for the application?
I mean, first of all, you've got to make sure that stuff, that stuff can be captured. It is already captured. If you incorporate the scripts that we have in your web pages. But the other thing you can do is add some metadata tags about your page load calculation, and then therefore you can then use that value if that's what you're trying to do, if I understand correctly. So there is, yes, there are ways of doing that and adding more metadata tags to the source of logs and data that's coming in here.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I will try, and then I will actually. If we have any questions later, we can email, or what's the best?
You can email me. Yep.
Okay.
And again, I would encourage you to go through again this section here and look at stuff. Let me also do a search for try that, real user monitoring. So again, here's the section about traces and setting up real user monitoring. And again, you can get a sense for what you need to do to set up your real user monitoring and the capabilities and all that stuff. Mackenzie, do you have a question? You don't need to raise your hand.
Oh, sure. You had mentioned an AWS observability certification class. Do you know if there's any scheduled at the moment?
There is not any scheduled at the moment. Two things I'm going to offer to you. One, I know I think it's maybe scheduled next quarter. I forgot exactly when we're building that schedule out. Actually, we built next quarter out, but I forgot when it's being offered. But one other thing I want to mention to you that might be helpful. When you all log into your Sumo Logic environment, so let me log out of here for a second, and let me log in as me. When you all log into your Sumo Logic environment, if you click on this House tab, and you click on Certification, and you click on Get Certified, this will take you into our learning management system. And these right here are our self-paced courses. Everything we have as instructor-led courses are also available in the recordings, but you can go in here. And again, if you scroll down, and by the way, here's the current password, but you scroll down here and you click on observability, you can take our observability self-paced course right here.
Okay.
So you don't have to wait for it. You can take it on your own. And if you got questions, feel free to reach out to me, because obviously I teach it. But anything we can do to help you, and the same with the administration one. One thing about the administration class I'm going to warn you is you need to have an AWS account. Right now, we're trying to find ways around that. But right now, in order to set this up and do, set up tracing and all stuff, you need to have an AWS account. So maybe you have that, maybe you don't have that. Until we get that all resolved, we're still trying to hammer that out. And you can see some of the other classes we have. If you're into Kubernetes and Helm and all that stuff, we've got self-paced classes there as well. So, and these things are absolutely free, my favorite price. One other thing, I'm going to go back a page here, if you don't mind. I'm going to go back another page. So here in my learning management system, under my recorded live training, I also have the recording for when we did the fundamentals, observability fundamentals class. So here you can go in here and click the registration button and you register. And here we can hear that last class that was run. Here is the lab guide. Here are the slides, because your certification exam for these are open note, open book, open slides. Heck, you can even ask the instructor for proctoring it. So it's another way of getting that information. And I apologize, I can't resist one more thing. Down here where it says learn a new skill, these are all of our micro lessons. We've got a team of fantastic instructional designers who not only build our courses and our self-paced courses, but they build a lot of micro lessons. And so you can go in here and you can see all of our micro lessons. And I'm sure we've got lots of micro lessons on observability, Kubernetes, how to set up a collector, on and on and on and on it goes. And you can filter by what you want. So I would encourage you to check those out as well. Everything, all of our training and everything's free. We are in it with our customers. We want you to be successful. So I apologize for the long-winded answer there, but I hope that answers your question, Mackenzie.
It did. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? All right, let me turn my camera on so I can give you a proper goodbye. Again, want to thank you for spending the last hour with us. I hope we answered some of your questions and gave you an idea of how powerful this application observability tool is. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in class again real soon. Please have yourselves a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. And like I said, we'll hopefully see you soon. Please be safe. Thanks a lot, folks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.